Hello and welcome back to the live edition of the PBS Employee Spotlight. My name is Emma and I'll be your host for this special program. I'm really looking forward to connecting more with the people at PBS that make it such a great place to be. And today I'll be sitting with John Mogg, who is a software and transitions advisor here at the company. And believe it or not, John has actually been with PBS for 10 years. So talk about dedication. I'm really looking forward to connecting with John and finding out more about the change that he's experienced here, as well as more about who he is as a person at PBS as well as outside. So let's get started. Thank you for joining me, John. It's really great that we're able to sit down and just have a chat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
How did you get your start here at PBS?
Oh, well, that's actually kind of an interesting little story. I worked in the car business in the Vancouver area and started a used car search engine, a little startup company called Cybercar. And David Marilyn actually contacted myself and my business partner and wanted to talk to us a little bit more about it. So we came to Calgary and we chatted a little bit. Long story short, we ended up joining up with PBS for a short while, and we ended up going over to a company in New York, which is kind of cool. So when I moved back to this area, my business partner Peter, he said, "Hey, why don't you come and interview with PBS?" So I did. Came over, and I ended up starting off in Shelley Scott's department in marketing. And of course, Shelley's a bit of a stickler on everybody learning how to use the software properly. And so my background being in sales, I learned sales and prospecting on the software and began to train that. And before I knew it, I was doing Aristo sales conversions. So from our older product called Titanium to Aristo, and that's kind of how I got my start.
So you did kind of mention conversions, and I know that you've been on the V10 team now for quite some time.
Right.
Your latest experience there has been kind of the wrap-up of these transitions that we've been doing from Aristo to V10.
That's right.
I would love to know more about that experience.
Sure.
And kind of how that whole thing went. You know, what were the milestones? What sorts of challenges did you guys have?
Yeah, so when V10 transition came along, yep, it was actually a kind of a natural one for me to get involved in.
For sure.
5.5, 6 years ago. Geez, it seems like it went by pretty quick, actually. Even 2 years ago, we expected the project to last another 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. But that's when the pandemic came along, and so we kind of changed gears a little bit. And because dealers were a little slower, business was a bit slower, we decided that that was maybe a really opportune time for them to transition from Aristo to V10 because it was slower. And sure enough, that was a really good idea. We managed to start transitioning as many as 10 dealers in a week. But one of our things was, it wasn't enough to just do a large volume of dealers. We wanted the experience to still be a really good experience.
Of course.
So we went to some of the other departments and we gathered more people to come into the project, and we were able to pull it off. We really got a lot of dealers done that first summer of the pandemic, and we ended up just finishing up last November, probably 2 to 3 years earlier than we had been anticipating, simply because we had the pandemic and we focused on getting more dealers transitioned to V10.
Absolutely. So in that sense, I mean, really, the pandemic kind of had a bit of a silver lining.
It was a positive. It was a positive for the dealers and for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Well, I know that there's another transition coming your way in the near future here.
Yes.
It's my understanding that you've got a brand new role that you're going to be taking on next month in April.
That's true.
Do you mind telling us a bit more about the role you're going to be taking on and what your new outlook is going to be here at PBS?
Sure. So while I was working in Aristo conversions, which we talked about a little bit earlier, one of the things I did was I was on the road a couple of weeks a month on what we call installs. So
Of course.
new dealers that we're installing the software at and training them on how to use it. This new role that I'm going to be doing is as a project manager, so I'll be the one in charge of making sure that all the departments are trained properly, and that they have all the technology that they're supposed to get from us. And yeah, so that's coming up mid-April, and yeah, I'm happy to say that I'm joining the team.
You must be really excited
I
and
really
looking
am.
forward to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the travel and meeting, you know, more dealers and
Absolutely.
getting them on board with our software.
Oh, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations
Thank you.
on that.
Thank you.
It sounds like you've absolutely been through a lot of change and different roles, but I mean, it keeps things interesting, right? Especially when you've been here for 10 years. Yeah, I think one of the main things that I wanted to focus on is the fact that you've probably been, well, you have absolutely been witness to a lot of changes.
You want to talk about that, don't you?
I do. I would love
Sure.
to talk about change
Sure.
and your perception of change.
So again, it's been a little over 10 years now. When I started, we were in our older building.
Yes.
That building was a nice building and everything, but we only took one floor of that building. While I've been at PBS, we then overtook the second floor in about my fourth or fifth year, I think. So we've been very successful at adding more and more dealers to our network, and of course that means more people to help those dealers with the software.
Certainly.
So I've seen a lot of growth for sure. In fact, all the way to here we are now in this nice brand new building that we moved into last December. That would be the biggest change I think I've seen at PBS is exactly that.
What makes PBS home for you?
That's an interesting question. I guess just the people, you know. We've really got a lot of nice people that work here, you know, so you can develop friendships just right here at work, you know, chatting with people. The way this building is designed, it's designed in such a way as you can have, there's little coves where you can talk to other people here at the company. You're constantly meeting others right here at the company.
There's a lot of opportunity, right, to be able to interact. What do you like to do outside of the office? Like, what does your weekend hold on a typical weekend?
So I feel like I'm a little boring. I'm kind of a sports enthusiast, I guess. And so on weekends, either playing golf or watching golf. Hockey, of course, the Canadian thing to do.
For sure.
Oh, and something that's maybe not so Canadian, or somewhat, is European soccer. European soccer's kind of something in the last 5 years that I've started watching, and it's kind of my new hobby.
Do you have a team that you focus on?
I have two teams.
Oh.
I have two different leagues that I follow. One is the German league, and the team's called Bayern Munich.
Very cool.
And then also in the Premier League, which is the English league, I follow Man United.
Ah, nice.
So some people know who they are.
Now tell me something, John. What would people be surprised to know about you that maybe they don't know about you?
Probably that I am a Golden Gloves champion.
Say what?
Yeah. So I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, and Michigan has a Golden Gloves tournament every year. Well, it's all over the U.S., but in the southeast Michigan area, so Detroit and Windsor both have teams that are in the tournament, and I ended up winning for my weight in class one year.
Wow!
So, surprise. I think some people would be surprised to hear that.
I think they probably would.
Okay.
I think most of us like to listen to music.
Sure.
What
yeah.
kind of music do you like to listen to?
So mostly I listen to, I don't know, old-time rock and roll kind of
Nice,
music. You know, your
nice.
Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd.
All the greats.
Yeah, Morrison. But actually, I kind of like rap a little bit now, too.
Just a little bit?
Which surprises me, actually. Yeah.
Do you have a bucket list?
A bucket list.
And what would be at the top of that
Well,
list?
who doesn't have a bucket list?
True, but
So I guess at the top of my bucket list, I mentioned that I'm into European soccer now.
yes.
So I'd like to plan a trip to Europe to see both Bayern and Man United play. and maybe do a little visiting in between.
Oh yes, that would be
So,
awesome.
That's kind of top of my bucket list. And I'm a golfer, so I'll probably bring my clubs too.
Of course, absolutely. And I'm sure you could find some very different courses in Europe
Pretty sure.
than what you're used to.
Yeah.
Well, John, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I've known you for pretty much the whole time I've been at PBS, but I definitely learned quite a few new things today about
Sure,
who you
yeah,
are and
yeah.
some of your interests. We really appreciate you taking the time,
Hey, it's my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You do the same.
Thank you very much. And that's it for the Employee Spotlight for this time. Hope to see you all next time for the next person in our hot seat. Take care. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for similar content to come in the near future. Follow us for all the latest and greatest PBS news and events information. We're currently active on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Check out the links in the video description below to visit our channels.